We are back. For those of you who are probably seeing this when you see it, I'm just gonna say preemptively because I don't know if I released first episode yet, but preemptively, congratulations for our first episode. I'm gonna pat myself in the back. We are on episode 2 of the season's podcast. Right now, we're on a mission. Um, if I go pick up family, take them to work. You know, I really want to say like it is so important at like a young age to really understand that we really have to listen more and lecture less, like in every way sense of the form. Like it's something that we need to start practicing more of in terms of even if it's to somebody younger, somebody older, like we have to listen more and lecture less. And I feel like when you're young, it's like you want to, well, I take that back because I feel like people at my age don't have this mindset because they're young in that not immaturity stage, but in like kind of like a selfish stage in itself. Like when you realize that there's more life to listen to, and there's literally less time to lecture about it. And that's not to say like you let anybody go around here like going crazy, but it's more like share your experiences with somebody. Allow them to like experience that for you, but like understand that it's gonna come a time for you to do the exact same thing, especially when it comes to a field that you're not familiar with. Even if you are familiar with it, we're not perfect. So it's like, don't walk in thinking that everything that you know is everything that you ever will know. Every day, I promise you, whether someone is younger than me, whether someone is older than me, God will always check you. God will always humble you. And for those, if you're not a believer, I'm not going to push that onto you, but just know it's always going to check you. Life is always going to check you. And people don't realize that knowing who you are does not mean that you know everything. Knowing what you can do does not mean you know how everything about it. It just means you're confident in what you've studied and what you focused on. But it's not an arrogance, you know. Don't come to the table with food and not be ready to eat. And that's the crazy part to me. But typically, I think in this season of my life, every day I learn that you really never can listen enough. Like when people are like, "Oh, I try my best to listen. I try my best to make observations. I try my best to hear other people. Try to listen more, think less, or I mean, not listen more, think less. Listen more, speak less." I don't know why I said that, but the fact of the matter is, it's kind of like I don't know. It's just like one of those things where you have to keep in mind that it just comes with the territory. It like really does come with the territory, and I don't know how else to explain that. Like for those of you who do not understand that dichotomy of things, it's just one of those things, you know? I don't know how else to explain it. I really don't. And it makes me wonder like what do I look like telling someone that I'm not in the place to grow when that's the one thing that like you're literally searching for. Like why would I even, it don't make sense. Like the math is not there. And it's so crazy to me. Because I feel like, but let me also say this though. Let me also say this because I don't believe in absolutes for the most part. Let me add that. For the most part, I don't believe in absolutes. Just because you listen more does not mean that you have to take on what someone says. Listening just means that you interpret the information that's given to you, and you make a decision and a choice off of what you're hearing. In my opinion, listening is not waiting to respond. Trust me, I suck at it the most. Listening is not waiting to respond. Listening is not hearing someone's message from your own point of view. Listening is putting yourself in the other person's shoes and perspective and thinking like, this is this person's experiences and this is their perspective. Where can I apply that to my life? And if you can't apply it to your life, that doesn't mean that listening was a bad idea, because you'll never know. Anytime someone even tells you something remotely valuable when it comes to living life, you will never know how valuable it is until you get to a place where you needed it. The best lessons I've ever learned in my life were never in the moment. There were definitely breadcrumbs to it that definitely helped me make better decisions overall. And I think a lot of people don't know that. Like, you can't make that distinction yourself. But it just like, who am I to be so arrogant? And the crazy thing about it is like, I feel like the more that I say I don't know something, if I'm not 100% confident, and even if I am 100% confident, I'm 100% confident I don't know it. Listening has never stirred me the wrong way. It's never stirred me the wrong way. Now, I will say this: when you listen, you do got to do your due diligence. Like, keep in mind the speaker that is speaking to you. Is this the right messenger for the message that you're trying to receive right now? Like, is this the right message for what you're trying to do? And if you realize that where you're trying to go is not in alignment of the message that this particular person's trying to give you, you can listen, but you don't have to digest it. You can listen, but you don't have to personalize it. It's just one of those things. It's one of those things you will never have to personalize it. And a lot of people forget that. But, everyone makes decisions every day. And I'm always surprised by what decisions people make. Like, I kid you not. It's always surprising. Right now, I wish I'm trying to think forwardly. I wish half the things that I knew, I trusted God as opposed to learning myself. And I feel like that's real for anyone, you know? I feel like if I had focused on what God had wanted for me in the first place, I would have avoided learning lessons through experience. You know, a lot of people say like touching the stove to see if it's hot. And respectfully, you don't have to learn by touching the stove to see if it's hot. Like, that's just, it's not something that you have to do. A lot of people get that mixed up. Like, my brother, my brother is my favorite crash out. And once he gets in this car, I will repeat such. But like, you know, I have two brothers, and I'm basically the oldest son on both sides of my family. My mom's side, my dad's side. So it's like, you want to be able to manage what you got going on. And you sometimes, a lot of times, you'll see yourself, you really will see yourself in like the people around you. And I always see past versions of myself in other people, but it gets a lot more personal. It gets a lot more purposeful when you see it around like siblings. And it's so crazy. It's so wild how life works. That's honestly why. If it, you know what's crazy, I believe that the man that I am right now, in spite of the decisions that I've made against my better knowledge, against my better wisdom, I truthfully believe that if it wasn't for the siblings that I have, I would not be the man I am today. You know, no one ever knows like the position and the power that another human being can bring into your life. It's like unfathomable. Like it's so crazy to me. If it wasn't for my siblings, and not even just my siblings, if it wasn't for people around me in general, like the man I be right now is nowhere near what I could have been. And I want to get into the habit of I want to get into the habit of being grateful for what I have had access to in my life. And there's a good chance that like that gratitude will never go unnoticed. And I think that's how you break habits. I think that's really honestly, truthfully, I think that's how you begin breaking generational cycles. When you see what other people have or don't have, and you see what you've had in your life, you see how those people in your life have impacted you, but other people didn't have the equivalent. It kind of changes things. It changes your mindset. It changes your goals. And ultimately, depending on who wants to stay in that generational cycle, depending on who wants to stay in that spot, like it changes how you view the people around you. Oh, now we're in traffic. That's crazy. Now we're sitting in traffic. I don't want to do that. Why would I? Why would I sit in traffic? But I say that to say that we just have to get in the habit of listening more and lecturing less. I can tell you right now at the top of my head, there will always be people in your life. And let me get this straight too. Let me also add this. There's a difference between correction and criticism. There is a difference between correction and criticism. Correction is out of love. Criticism is out of pressure. It's out of misalignment. It's out of selfish tendencies. Case in point, if your child has a behavioral mishap, right? You correct them out of love because you want them to be better. You want them to understand life for what it is. You want them to go about life the right way. Criticism is the dwelling on the correction. It's to impose your own beliefs and pressures on that person. And the crazy thing is for relationships, criticism is one of the four horsemen. And what are the odds that knowing that facet about like communication doesn't really change much about what you do about it? And that's where tools come in. The tools don't necessarily say like you're gonna have a perfect time doing this. The tools simply say I can manage it. That's literally all it says. The tools just say I can manage it. And I feel like it's so much easier and like it's so much easier when you're from a place of a fake lack of a fake abundance. Like people who are like, if it doesn't serve me, I don't want it. And my question, my counter question, because although I agree with that statement, Are we doing this from a place of defense mechanism? Are we doing this from a place of comfort? Are we doing this from a lack of compassion? A lot of people selfishly will climb to the top. Why would you then choose to be one of them? Like make that make sense. The one thing that this world has been prided off of is the ability to love other people. And you're telling me that you're going to do the opposite to achieve success. Maybe it's just me like jumping all over the place, but like it's just like insane. Yo, this traffic, it's not I'm not a fan of this. I'm not a fan of this at all. I have been sitting in the same spot for 3 minutes. Why are we here? Why are we here? I'm going to let it go. Bro, do I have no option? Ooh, I got to sneeze. Ooh. I had to let that sneeze go. But no, for real. Like, even if, like, you know what's crazy too? I'm just thinking about this. If y'all don't ever see this episode, or if y'all don't see the full scope of this episode, depending on what I keep and what I don't keep, just know, like, there is most certainly a chance that my engine is going to be mad loud during the whole episode.